Hey and welcome to my little video about the little Nintendo GameCube game called Geist, which also means ghost in German, for example. It has different meanings, but when you think about Geist, you think about a ghost, a thing that haunts you. But basically, that is what the game is about. You take over the control of a ghost who can take over objects and other people. The thing is, I played this game because I am on a quest to beat every GameCube game possible. I saw this idea from the Beast on YouTube, 721 I think, who's trying to beat every Nintendo 64 game. So I was like, what console could I do that for? And the GameCube was a console I owned when I was younger. I still own it. It's at my sister's house, but I own the GameCube. I play these games on the Wii, and because it's backwards compatible. And I thought, what would be a great game to start my journey to beat all 653 GameCube games? Geist, a game that I always wanted to play when I was younger, but I wasn't allowed to because my parents were very strict with how I was allowed to play games that are not for my age, so I never had the chance. And even then, if I had the chance, I would probably have not rented it from the view store. I would have not bought it probably. And the years passed and passed, and I always had it on my back burner in the back of my mind, where I was like, hey, guys, that's a game I still have to try one day. And now on my journey to beat every GameCube game, I thought, hey, it's time. Maybe I should choose this game as my first game. And I have to say, from the start, it wasn't a bad experience. It was but I don't know, I just talk in German sometimes. I don't have a script for these videos, I'm just kind of talking about it. Also, I'm just looking at my own VOD, like I didn't really record it on my PC, and it don't takes too long, and I'm very amateur like when it comes to video editing, so it's mostly gonna be me talking about some of the gameplay. Maybe I'm gonna skip through it a little bit, even on my internet right now can't load it very well. Obviously, you should ask, this game, why are you making this video then? I just want to. It doesn't have to be professional. If you want to be watching someone who's professional a little bit more and stuff like that, I'm also recording this at 1 a.m. You can maybe already tell my brain is like kind of mushy, but that isn't the point of the video. The point of the video is that I want to explain what Geist is. Geist, basically, you take over the control of other people through your ghost form. That's the whole point of the story. You kind of go into villa, and it actually turns out it's a research facility because there's an evil guy who wants to research magical beings that are kind of ghosts and geists, and you can use them to take over other people who then do evil things for you, because the plan of the guy who's evil in this game is taking over other people with the evil ghost and then assassinate the world leaders, and then basically blackmail them and tell them, hey, you have to, puppet. He installs some puppet world leaders, and then he basically belongs, the world belongs to him then basically, and you're on your quest, on your journey to end it. You die pretty much early on. The body gets taken away from you. You like the Geist form. In the Geist form, you can possess other people. Like, for example, in the gameplay that you're seeing right now, I am a janitor, and we need to open a door, and we couldn't open the door in the Geist form because we are a ghost, and a ghost can't touch things. The thing is, you can't really go through things either. When you think about a Geist or a ghost, you kind of think you can fly through walls. No, you can't. Only at specific points does the game allow you to fly through certain walls to allow you, hey, you can go through here, and then you go to the next area, and then you find someone that you can spook, because that's what you have to do. You can't just take over anyone you see. You have to first take someone over. For example, here we can take over a dog, and that's how the game kind of is. You have to find the person you have to take over, then you can see, what is standing around them, to use that object to scare them. For example, here we have a dog. If my video will load, there we saw the dog. And how do we scare the dog? We see the dog. What would be scary to a dog? And in this example, you turn into the food bowl of the dog, and in the food bowl you then shake a little bit, and that makes the dog go, wow, why did my food just suddenly go crazy? And then the dog is like, oh, I'm scared, something isn't right here. And even though ghosts should actually sniffle out a ghost, you kind of think they have some paranormal activities. See, we turn into the dog bowl, we will now shake and scare the dog, and then we can take over the dog, and when we take over the dog, we can go to the next area, we can scare other people, and so on and so on. And the game has many of these secrets. The thing is, what I sometimes hated about the game, it has like a very context sensitivity kind of pointer. Like you have to look at things to talk to them. Like obviously, for example, in other games, you see an object and then there's like an exclamation mark above the object and you press A and then you can interact with it. Here, you have to look at certain things in the perfect perspective, and if you don't, it kind of seems like you can't interact with them. At certain points, I wanted to become a lamp or something, but I didn't look correctly at the lamp in a way where the lamp wanted me to take it over with. So I was like wondering, okay, what do I do now? Do I do something else and I look around and I look at the lamp again and suddenly, oh, there's the sign that I can take over the lamp? Because you know, in the game you first have to interact with things and then they show the color. Like red things you can take over. If they're not red, you can't take them over. But to make them red, you have to talk to them first, which sometimes is a little bit hard to see. But I think, you know, you always kind of know that around the world, there's all of these objects that are kind of easy to see. And here we see another example where we can use the Geist form in battle. In combat, you can also turn into a grenade, these things that explode, and then you can just explode. What I can say is that this is one of these very rare occurrences where taking over an exploding thing actually makes sense. Most of the time, when you go out of your normal combat character, if you're a soldier, you can shoot, and if you go out of them, the time slows down. And you can go around the room to look around for things to explode. And most of the time you can find them, but it takes a very long time. Like the way you fly is very slow. So walking towards one of those exploding objects in your ghost form to take it over to explode someone else's body takes such a long time that it most of the time it's never worth it to actually do it. Here we have to do it because we are little red. We are not someone that can shoot. If you have a person that can shoot, you shoot at those things and they explode immediately, basically. And you do that in like 1 second. If you take over the thing and then you explode, it takes like 10 seconds to even fly over there and things like that. So the thing is, obviously the opportunity to take over things while being in combat is there, but most of the time you just would rather shoot. At least that's what I did. You know, it allows you a little bit to think about your approach to how you handle it. Because most of the time when you're in the ghost form, you are more likely to just solve puzzles. At least that's how I did it. In the combat scenes, I never really did the combat. Sadly, the thing is, here we have a good example that the game also is a little bit buggy at certain points, because at this point you have to take over a lamp and you have to make this lamp explode. This is a puzzle, for example, and in this puzzle you have 2 lamps, and with the lamps you look at the bats who fly around because you want to scare the bat to take over the bat so you can fly away. Sadly, what my game didn't want to do is that this lamp has to explode. So my explode thing never came up. So I had to restart and reload my game to make it show up, because I was stuck here for like 20 minutes. I looked up at a YouTube video and I was like, okay, I'm doing everything that this YouTube video also does. But for some reason, this didn't want to happen in my game. So I had to restart the mission, and the good thing is, it was at the start of a mission. But the thing is, this wasn't the only game-breaking bug. There is another part where you are on a motorcycle and you take over the motorcycle and you make your friend drive, and you turn into a motorcycle and you make him drive, and then you get out of it, and then, you know, he's like, oh, protect me here, Bryson. And the thing is, at the end of the mission, it just continued endlessly. Like at one point the mission just didn't end and I had to restart it. Here he died. Or is this where I restarted it? I think this is where he died, because the thing is, you kind of think you can drive the motorcycle and you cannot do, but you have to actually get out of the motorcycle and then you just explode everything around it because they don't shoot really. I think he just died. But the other times I just endlessly drove and drove without an end, and then I had to restart the mission again because it just didn't end. I was like, okay, something is wrong. There's no more enemies, nothing bad is happening, and it just made me think, okay, that's my second game-breaking bug in a way. It's not really game-breaking because you can just reload your save. It's not it's into chapters, and every chapter is fairly not too long. But overall, it is a little bit weird that it broke twice in the hour of like in the span of like 3 hours. But overall, you know, what can I say? It has some bugs, so you should be prepared. See here, there's no enemy spawning, there's nothing happening. My guy survived. I had to restart the mission. The thing is, the gunplay in the game is pretty good for a GameCube game. The thing is, this game also out at a time where people were like, the GameCube, such a kiddie console. Where are the games for adults? Obviously you had Resident Evil 4 sometimes, you had Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, Resident Evil 4, all GameCube games. You had Resident Evil, 4 was like the biggest one. But overall, you didn't really have a Killzone. You didn't really have a Halo. Okay, it's Killzone, maybe. Killzone wasn't, Killzone was like Sony's Halo killer, but the GameCube didn't have a big shooter franchise where people thought like, wow, this is gonna be the Halo killer. In some people's minds, Geist was like the thing that tried to do it, but it never achieved anything really. And it's kind of sad, because the thing is, I do like the puzzle aspects of the game, even though they work also in a very gamey way. Like sometimes I already knew what I had to do. Like there was like a cook, and the cook is you have to feed the people, and you have to feed the people with rat poison to make them suffer, so your friend can pass through a certain way. But sadly, he doesn't really do it. If I think that was like in the first part. I think it's the first part, I guess, here somewhere. And they will only eat it if you do something else first before you put the red poison in. So sometimes you know the solution to a puzzle already, but the game won't allow you to do it before you do another part. And the thing is, the game also has bosses, and they are some of the most long drawn out things, because the thing is, they make you think you're doing them wrong. Here I thought I did the boss fight wrong, because the thing is, you just shoot, and you only shoot at the open mouth, and you do like little damage, and it takes such a long time to beat this boss, for example. And this boss shows up 7 times, 6-7 times. Not in this form, this is the only time he shows up in this form, but in other forms he shows always up crawling from the ceiling. You have to shoot his open mouth, and if you don't, well, fuck you. You just shoot, and he always takes a long time, and then he shows up again and again and again, and the enemy variety is also kind of whack in this game. Like, for example, there's like 2 alien monsters basically, and otherwise it's just soldiers, and sometimes soldiers in super soldier armor. And here we, for example, see like the red poison, where he says, I don't need this, even though I already know what I have to do. But first you need to become the cook to pick it up, even though you could also do it as the other guy, basically. Obviously, the scientists can't do it, but the cook should only do it. But it makes sense. It's a little bit of a nitpicky complaint. But yeah, the boss fights kind of suck. There's also one at the end where it comes out of nowhere, where you fight like 2 giant statues, and it's like taking you a long time to actually beat them, because they have like this weak point. You shoot the weak point, you shoot them, and it's like it comes out of nowhere. Then afterwards the final boss, and it feels a little bit rushed at the end. The thing is, there's also this midway point where now you have also enemies who can suck you out of your body, like they suck the soul out of your body to then attack you, which doesn't really do much. The game overall, it is like, it took me like 6-7 hours, and it's not very long. It's also not very hard. It's mostly sometimes where there's like just so many enemies, and you just think, oh Jesus, because the game is, you don't really play smartly. You just kind of run into a room, you can shoot around, there's enough medikits most of the time, and again, the gunplay is pretty fine. Sometimes the auto aim was a little bit aggressive, like sometimes it just zoomed onto all these enemies even though you didn't want to. Like, for example, sometimes I had my other character standing around the character that I owned, and then it just auto-locked onto the next person, and then I shot myself, and luckily in that mission it just respawned another soldier for me, otherwise it would have failed the mission. But it does feel like a shooter on a console basically. Like, I don't play too many shooters in my life, or haven't played too many shooters in my life on consoles. Like, for example, my favorite ego shooter on the GameCube or console is Time Splitters 2, which eventually I will also have to play through again. And yeah, it feels the same basically. Like, for me, console shooters mostly feel the same. And here you can see, you just shoot. The thing is, the funny thing about it is that those ragdolls, like, they kind of fly around. And these are also the enemies that can suck you out, and then they charge you. And this is the only time, like, left bottom corner, there's your ghost meter, and it drains so slowly, that you will never have to drain the weed. You will never have to drain the weed out of those plants or smoke it or whatever you want to call it, because there's like no way you're ever gonna die in the ghost form. But yeah, the game has a few puzzles, it has some shooting, it had potential. The graphics are okay, the soundtrack at certain points is actually pretty neat. Like the soundtrack isn't bad. It has some pretty nice bangers, especially like where you feel very epic, where you feel like, oh, I can win this fight. But more overall, it is it's not forgettable. Like I don't think you will forget about this game if you played it, because the gimmick of it is very unique, very nice. It just doesn't get used in such a way that makes you think, oh, that was so clever. It's kind of mostly the same. Like once you do a puzzle, you kind of do the puzzle over and over. In the fighting, you don't really use it. Like here, most of the time, you don't even have explosive things where I can turn into the explosive thing and use my ghost form. It feels a little bit half-baked, but overall, I would recommend it to people who are looking for a shooter that they never played before. A nice experience where they think, hey, a console shooter that I missed, let me try this out. The aesthetic is a little bit, it's mostly like military kind of composts and everything. There's also a very nice mission that was in the other part. There's a nice mission here, for example, where you have to time. Like the thing is, you have to destroy towers and you throw around mines because you take over someone who throws mines. And this was, for me, one of the fun missions. Like it was something different. Like you can also take over like the shooting things. It's a little bit hard with the way, because the thing is you take a lot of damage and you only get one guy. Like you only get one mine guy, and sometimes you have to leave him to explode the machine guns on the walls here with the explosive, or you become some this thing, then you kill the other guys, then you kind of shoot at yourself, and you kind of have to take these things over because you have to look at their range, where they can look and where they can't look, because you don't have enough explosive to really kill them, except you throw your mines at them because you think you're in alpha chat. Here I did the thing where I didn't even turn into a mine dude and just already killed everything around me, so then when I become the mine dude, I can easily throw the mines at the things at the top of the tower so I can get shot anymore. Which is the pretty way to do it, but I don't know, that was my unique plan. And it was one of those missions that kind of stays in your mind, because I love to throw mines. Like here, you take the thing upstairs and then you see this thing, you walk by, oh geez, it actually saw me. You go behind it and then you kill it like that, and you actually have to think about the way you approach it. Another fight that kind of stays in your mind because it's so freaking annoying is this fight where you basically fight against a helicopter, and that's not all. The helicopter suddenly then throws ghosts out of it, because those are the ghosts that the guy wanted to use to kill all the world leaders, and he's like, you ruined my plan, now I'm gonna shoot all those ghosts at you. And there's like so many ghosts that you have to kill, and they take you over and they try to run off the cliff with you, or they try to run into the fire, and you take so much damage. And it is annoying as frick, because the ghosts also have this zigzag running animation where you can barely aim at them and you just basically shoot and hope you hit someone. And then you also have a boss fight immediately after, kinda, where you fight these two guys, these golems that I already talked about. Like not a single boss in the game was a fun experience, not a single time. They all kind of made me think, Jesus, they are putting the experience down. Like sometimes, maybe a hot take, sometimes when you don't make a fun fight, just don't make the fight at all. Not every game needs to have bosses. Like sometimes you can just think, yeah, we don't need a boss. Like also, there was like this boss where you fought like a different guy who can take over the other guy that you kind of controlled before, and it is okay. Here, for example, we see the boss again. This boss shows up like 6 times, like I said, and always like this. He never really changes his way he works. Yeah, and I guess that's kind of the Ghost experience. It had a lot of potential. Sadly, it never really used it. But again, I would recommend it to anyone who's on the lookout for a nice ego shooter on the Gamecube, because they ran a lot. And I really wish maybe one day we could have gotten a Geist 2. The thing is that is a really big missed opportunity, is that there's like no catch. I think the thing is, the story is like very corny. It's like military action turned up to the thousands. It's like a Michael Bay movie. Stupid one-liners, stupid cliche lines. The one thing that I really missed was like a line that said something about Geist. Like, they even say ghosts. Like, ghost here, ghost there. Why call your game Geist if it doesn't really say anything about Geist? Why not say, oh, we really are the Geists of our times? That doesn't make sense, but there is probably a person out there who can make a corny line about the name Ghost instead of Geist. Or the other way around. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It certainly made me feel like I didn't miss out when I was a kid. I had a friend who told me the multiplayer was kind of fine though, because you can do fun things in the multiplayer. But sadly I don't have friends, so I can't try that out. Otherwise I would have to fly over people here so they can play the Geist multiplayer with me. Oh jeez, why is this suddenly flashing? Like, jeez Christ, I just got an epilepsy freaking thing. But yeah, I would. If you look for an ego shooter you never played before and you kind of think, yeah, I even can take some generic gunplay and everything, I would recommend it. And it was a great start to me trying to beat every GameCube game. And yeah. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, you hopefully enjoyed it. If you didn't, I'm sorry. It's like I said, it's really amateurish, where it's basically more like me just talking over the thing in my thoughts, and my thoughts are very mishmashy sometimes because I could have written a script, but that's too much work at 1 a.m. It's not really work. I could have done some little notes. It doesn't matter. Enjoy. If you enjoyed.